We're taking it one game at a time, not peeking ahead. That's what happened in the playoffs, and we ended up losing to the team people had us favored over. It's any given Sunday. You can't underestimate no team, no opponent, and that's what we did. Dan Orlovsky back with us now. Max, I'll start with you here. How concerned are you about playoff Lamar Jackson?
I am concerned. Let me start by saying this. Lamar Jackson's a great player. He's already a great player. And considering his age, he's actually a very accurate passer. What, he just turned 23 years old? He's been the most accurate passer to this point in his career, basically in the history of football. Think about that. That includes guys like Peyton Manning and others who came into the league, by the way, not even as young as Lamar Jackson. So it's not that I don't think he can do it. I believe he can do it. But he's already admitted to psychology affecting the Ravens' play. When he said they looked past the Titans, he said, we have to learn not to peek ahead. That means that the circumstances, the psychological effects of playing there actually affected how they played on the field. Now, first, Lamar Jackson. In his first playoff appearance, he's like the worst thing you ever saw. But his learning curve is so, he adapts so quickly that by the end of that game, he was like a different player already. One game as a 21-year-old, and he was already looked like a different player. He got better fast in that game, but he started from a terrible point. Now, last season against the Titans, he wasn't awful. Some guys missed some passes. He wasn't awful. But was he up to his normal standard? The answer is no. He wasn't as good as he normally was. So, when you ask these things, are you concerned about a guy? You really are trying to kind of chart the trajectory and think, well, if he's doing this at this point in his career, and you start to look for comps, guys who were also good young, and where that took them, or similar kind of players, you expect, wow, he's really going to improve this upcoming season and the next season, and he learns from these things, and he'll be fine. But you can't just assume that stuff. You can make a prediction, I think he'll be fine, but you can't assume it. I have enough concern based on the fall off of his and his team's play so far in the playoffs in consecutive years that if I sat here and said I'm not concerned with playoff Lamar, I'd be lying.
Well, for me, I'm not concerned about it because I think he's electrifying in terms of his running ability and his playmaking ability, and I think that resonates profoundly. I don't view Lamar Jackson as an elite passer, and I don't think he has to be an elite passer in order to deliver the goods for the Baltimore Ravens because we've seen how adroit John Harbaugh is at utilizing him in a multitude of areas that allows you to offset that to some degree. That's my thinking of it, about it along those lines. Certainly when I think about the AFC, I think about Kansas City as being the elite squad. You got to pay attention to Pittsburgh because Big Ben Roethlisberger is coming back. We don't expect the same things from New England because Tom Brady isn't there. We don't expect the same things from Houston because Deshaun Watson isn't there. Because Deshaun Watson, I'm sorry, not Deshaun Watson, but DeAndre Hopkins isn't there any longer. And so when we look at the rest of the AFC, even though you have good teams that can beat a lot of these teams, the reality is you're looking at Baltimore and you're saying they're probably the second best team in the AFC. I look at Lamar Jackson, and I don't see that being derailed in any way. He did not perform well. He performed absolutely abysmally against San Diego, who were the Los Angeles Chargers, in the first playoff game that he had last year. For those first 3 quarters and a half, he was god-awful. Last year, he could only produce 6 points against Tennessee for the first 3 quarters before they scored in the final quarter as well. So he's got some he's got some developing to do and all of this other stuff. But he is known as an elite athlete and an elite runner with the football and an absolutely positive game changer. I don't expect that to dissipate in any way. If the Baltimore Ravens struggle, I don't think it will be because of him. I think it will be because other guys didn't step up, just like they weren't ready to step up against Tennessee. I don't think it'll be because of him, because I think what you see is what you get. A guy that's going to incrementally improve as a passer, but ultimately his bones are going to be made by running that football and moving those chains and scaring the living hell out of defenses because he's such an electrifying athlete. That's how I view him.
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns about Lamar Jackson when it comes to the playoffs. Now, is it a conversation? Absolutely. I mean, he was so good the back end of his first season and then last year that we are now going to put him in a very kind of small box with we want to watch what you do in the regular season because you're amazing, but now it's going to be about how you perform in the postseason. That's how good the beginning of his career has been. I want to go back to last year because we do need to put context on that game against the Tennessee Titans. And we've talked about it a little bit. You guys have both mentioned it. But first of all, they went down 14-0. The Ravens went down 14-0 within like a quarter. That team, style-wise, is not built to play from behind. They are built to get up 7-0 or 10-3 and just allow that explosive offense and run game to pound you away. So them going down 14-0 had nothing to do with Lamar. Their first drive of the game, they go right down the field, and he hits Mark Andrews with the ball. Not a great throw, but it goes off his hands, intercepted. Second of all, they had 4 drops. Like that obviously is a big deal in any game, let alone the playoffs. Mark Ingram was hurt. He was coming off that calf injury, so their run game was subpar. And then Derrick Henry had like 200 yards rushing. So they did not lose that playoff game because of Lamar Jackson. They lost that playoff game because of all the people and pieces around Lamar Jackson. So that's why I don't have concerns about him. Also, this team, this organization drafts and develops very well. I mean, this is one of the few teams in the NFL organization-wise that you can know year in and year out. Since their inception, they've been a really good organization. So he's going to have so many opportunities. It's also important to point out, like, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, they didn't win their first playoff game until their 6th season. Lamar just had his first year as a starter. And so I have zero concerns. I actually think, Max, him admitting that they were somewhat looking ahead, I think it's a great sign of maturity. It's a great sign of development for him to be able to be like, you know what, that was a learning process for me.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.